All right. I think we're live. If you are, looks like the little live button is there. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Partners Unplugged. Wherever you're joining us from around the world, whatever time zone you're in, we are immensely grateful to be part of a community that spans continents and cultures that has chosen not to look away from the suffering of the world, but respond with love and action. And these episodes, Partners Unplugged, are just a chance for us to kind of give you a little bit behind the scenes, candid conversation about our work. And this episode is about kind of what it's like to do our work during the summer. In the Northern Hemisphere, or at least in North America, a lot of us kind of slow down for the summer. But where we work, war, conflict, disaster, it doesn't take a break. And so what does it look like for us as a nonprofit to continue to be standing in solidarity with those caught in conflict with children and their communities? So we're excited you're here. If you are in the chats, watching live on Instagram or YouTube, feel free to say what's up. Tell us where you're watching from. We're going to talk about some of our summer campaigns, some ways for people to engage, highlight some work on the ground that's kind of happening on the moment. And we're joined by a special guest that's right below me, a dear friend and a board member of Partners. And actually, before we get going, let's do a quick introduction, and then we'll talk about some recent updates. So my name is Chris Scott. I'm the Director of Strategic Engagement and have been a part of Partners as a volunteer and then a board member and now on staff for a few different years. And so I'm glad you all are here. And I'd love for my friend to my, I guess it's my right, to introduce themselves, and then we'll do you last down below me.
Awesome. My name is Kara. I am the Director of Communications, and I am based out of our Grand Rapids, Michigan Partners U.S. office.
Great. My name's Fred Harrell. I'm a Presbyterian pastor based in San Francisco and a board member, proud board member of Partners.
Awesome. We're looking forward to our little chat in a few moments. If you've been following the news or following our work, you know that where we work in the Middle East, there's a lot going on. We work in numerous countries there, and most recently there's been a significant flare-up in violence the last few months with the conflict with Iran, which has spilled over regionally. And one of the places that we've worked is in Lebanon, where at the peak of it, about a fifth of the population of the country, 1 million people, were displaced, mostly to no fault of their own. They're just caught in the crosshairs of things that are beyond their control. And so we've worked to bring aid and hope and solidarity, and we're still connected there as the flare-ups kind of pop up and simmer down. We are standing by trying to do whatever we can. So we wanted to highlight our work there before we talk about what it's like to do this work during the summer. And so just kind of grounding it in the reality of the world. So bear with me as I pull this up onto the screen.
In Lebanon right now.
Oops. And kind of share with you all a recent video of some of our on-the-ground work. And then we'll have a fun conversation afterwards.
Reality for families is changing by the day. At Partners Relief and Development, we believe in a simple truth. Children shouldn't suffer because the adults are fighting. But as conflict intensifies, thousands of families are being caught in the crossfire. What we are seeing is a humanitarian crisis reaching a breaking point. 1 in 5 people have been forced from their homes. Schools that should be filled with students are now makeshift shelters, overcrowded and struggling to provide even the most basic sanitation. This wasn't their choice. It's a desperate search for safety as the conflict engulfs Beirut and the south of Lebanon. Our team has been on the ground with local partners to support those living in the hard-to-reach places. So far, because of your support, we've provided life-saving relief to over 4,500 people. We are moving quickly to provide the essentials that maintain dignity and health: food and hygiene packs, hot cooked meals, and critical medical care. The need is clear. We've seen families flee to Beirut with nothing but what they could carry. At the southern front lines, we've reached families who cannot leave, either because they lack the financial means or because they refuse to uproot their lives and abandon the only place they've ever called home. For these families, we are providing direct cash support and vital medicine. This isn't just about survival, it's about supporting communities' collective strength as they care for each other now and in the months ahead. From Lebanon to the other conflict zones in the Middle East and Southeast Asia where we work, the needs are rising, but so is our resolve. We're committed to going to the hard-to-reach places to meet children caught in the crossfire, providing both the emergency relief they need today and the long-term support to keep them safe, healthy, and in school. You can help us ensure no child is missed. We have the plan and partners on the ground. What you fuel, we'll deliver. Together, we can be the hands and feet of love for families affected by war. Please give today.
All right. See if we can get this. Hey guys, I'm big and you guys aren't as big. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
As I tinker with the format here, it's always sobering or reminding ourselves, our team, we do things like have benefit concerts and get to talk to our community around North America, but watching the videos, I'm always reminded of just the difficulties that our friends are facing and that many in the world are experiencing. So thanks for being a part of that. If you've been a part of the Partners community, you are bringing life-saving aid in this moment to people around the world. So with that, I'd like to invite Kara to share with us something we're doing this summer. I mentioned earlier that during the summer, a lot of nonprofits, things kind of slow down, and it's a challenge to get the word out, to keep momentum going. How do we invite people to not look away when it's easy to this summer or be distracted, but to lean in? And so we've got a couple things going this summer that we'd like to invite you all to consider participating with. And then we're going to get a chance to interview Fred in a moment. And as Kara's talking, I'm going to try to get the screen better. Kara, so what do we got going on this summer?
Yeah, we are launching a Summer Love campaign, and I think it really stemmed from everything you said, Chris, and also this awareness we have that our community is really creative and really resilient. And I think often just naming the struggle then opens up our ability to creatively tackle it. And so we were like, what if, let's just name the struggle that in the summer, people have a lot going on and funding can really take a dip. And one of the things that kind of emerged out of that was saying, how do we really find a way to capture this beautiful part of summer for those of us in North America, which is a lot of gathering. Like there's a lot of time with friends and family. There's a lot of great weather. So we came up with some different event ideas where we hope that it can be this really beautiful vehicle for people to pair just the natural, joyful gatherings that are already taking place and turn them into springboards to also fuel emergency relief and support for kids who are caught in the crosshairs right now. And so we put together a variety of ideas. We have a blog going out that has more, and also just really invite our community's creativity on this. You guys might think of something that we haven't thought of, but there's opportunities to do things like Join on the Run, which we've had a lot of people sign up to do races or swimming challenges to raise money. Or if you're just having a backyard barbecue, we have a poster people can print out and just put up to invite people to donate the cost of a meal as they're hanging out in the backyard. I think that often it can feel like in order to make a difference, we have to do something huge, right? Like a massive something. And I think the longer I walk with partners and with this community, the more I see the power of things that can feel small have such an impact when we're able to incorporate our love and action just into our regular life rhythms. So we're really excited to see the ideas that this community brings, and to just invite that continued solidarity with kids during a time of a lot of crisis and a lot of urgency.
Thanks, Kara. And just to echo your sentiment, this is how Partners got started, really. It's just people choosing to do small acts of love in solidarity with those who are caught in these awful situations. And so I'm planning to get my kids out there to do a lemonade stand, and I'm doing the On the Run. And all of our collective, I think, love, it makes a difference in the world more than we know. And also, just to highlight, this summer, there's a match going on. So every $2 that's raised gets added $1. So it's a 50% match. So if you raise $100, you actually are going to be raising $150. So a really cool chance, and thanks to the generous donor who helped make that match happen. So it's a beautiful time to lean in, and if you have any questions, let us know. So on that note, kind of talking about fundraising, we thought it would be interesting to interview our board member, Fred, who is a part of the Partners community and has a wealth of knowledge and experience sitting on boards, knowing the ups and downs of nonprofits, of philanthropy, of humanitarian work, of ministry. And so thanks for joining us, Fred, and thanks for being a part of Partners. But could you already kind of introduce yourself. What drew you to Partners, and what keeps you kind of anchored in this work? Why are you committed to the work of Partners as a board member and as a human?
Well, the more I heard about Partners from you, Chris, the more I began to see that it was the kind of thing that I would like to be engaged in, because it's unique, it's strategic, it's compassionate, it's courageous, and most of all, it's very effective. There's a lot of boards that come my way that feel like they all kind of look similar and they're doing okay stuff. But when this one came my way, it's like, wow, these folks are on the ground. They're working with locals. It's extremely organic. And, to me, as someone who's thinking about where do I want to invest my time and energy, Partners just felt like such a strategic investment. And, certainly in the lives of children. And by that, we mean not only children, but of course, the moms and the women who are also impacted by conflict. And so for me, it just felt like a great match. And I'm really proud to be a part of it. After doing the staff retreat last February, I'm even more sold out for what Partners is doing in this world.
Thanks, Fred. Yeah, we love having you as a part of the Partners community. It's been such a gift to have you with us and have your wisdom and your deep care. In your mind, why do you think summer is such a challenge for nonprofits?
Well, the needs continue, whether it's summer, winter, fall, spring, conflict, and the way that conflict zones arise and the impact it has on people doesn't go away just because it's June, July, and August. Families are still very much displaced. Children are vulnerable. Communities are struggling. None of that goes away. And so summer, for many of us, is a place of time we think of, like for me, I was just talking a little while ago offline about how I'm looking forward to my vacation. But for millions of people, there is no vacation from conflict and from the oppression that it brings about. Summers are tough. They're tough for all nonprofits. I know for the church I pastored in San Francisco for many years, we had to be very intentional about talking about summer because people have other things they're doing in the summer. It's unlike the other months for North Americans. And it's easy if we have a pattern of donating, it's easy for us to not pay attention to that for 2 or 3 months. And so it's important for folks who are, distracted by vacations or family activities and, just a very different rhythm of life. The kids aren't in school. Oh my God, what am I going to do with the kids all summer? I mean, all those things come into play. And so summer giving campaigns are really important. And I'm really glad to hear you got this match, Chris. That's fantastic.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you are watching online on YouTube or Instagram, there's people coming and going. We'd love for you to, if you have a question or something you want to name, or just drop the location you're watching from, that'd be great. We have folks from Canada, New Zealand, all over. We're talking about summer and how it's kind of a lull often in the nonprofit space, but like you said, the needs don't go away. And so I wonder if you could kind of give us a window into, you hinted at it a little bit, but the average person in the world and how they think about nonprofits. During the summer, they might check out. But are there like any misconceptions you've seen as a board member, as a fundraiser, as somebody involved in ministry? Any misconceptions people might have about nonprofits and fundraising, in addition to kind of taking a step back for the summer?
Sure. I mean, fundraising is about relationships. Fundraising is not just about asking people for money, but it's inviting people into real meaningful participation into this mission that matters so much, is life and death for so many women and children in particular, and families. And I think the misconceptions are that these things, I mean, I think that nonprofits and churches in general, it tends to invite, for whatever reason, for people to have kind of magical thinking about how things actually operate. But the reality is, all of the stuff that, like even just that video, took all sorts of hours and planning and, expenses that are not particularly sexy and real attractive and like, wow, the big story. And the big stories are important to tell. We could talk more about that. But it also has to do with people who are really engaged in this work, talented people who are making sure that we have really strong systems in place so that those who are laboring on behalf of partners have what they need to be okay, so they can focus on their jobs, so they know how to communicate within the organization, so that the infrastructure and accountability is strong, so that people are getting the training they need to do the job well. Those are all things that are not necessarily going to make a video, but the videos don't get made unless those things are in place. And so, none of this happens magically. Whatever organization you're part of, all the expenses that nobody necessarily highlights. Well, all those expenses take place in every organization, and nonprofits as well. Partners is fantastic at eliminating waste and of being really great stewards of the funds that are given to them. That's part of what our job is as a board, to oversee that. And having served on a number of boards, I feel like the way in which the way we steward money is second to none. And it's part of why I'm so all in for Partners. But yeah, it's a lot of behind the scenes work for sure.
Yeah, thanks for that insight, Fred. I feel like as you talk about the urgency of life and death, I think that really feeds into a lot of how we steward funds, because we know the cost, that families are facing, and want to do everything we can to make sure that they're being reached with the help they need. It's so important. As a board member, you really get to see the behind the scenes gears of all these pieces that some of them you just mentioned. Is there any one thing that you think people would be really surprised to hear about what running a nonprofit entails?
I think what I was really impressed with on the staff retreat is getting to be around all of the staff. And, in my mind, it was like, well, there's a whole bunch of staff over in this area of the world. There's another bunch of staff in this area of the world. And they probably don't really play well together or know each other very well or whatever. And what I experienced was a really, really healthy staff culture. There was a curiosity about everybody's different participation in this work. It reminds me of those verses in the Bible about how the church is made up of many members with different gifts, to see the constellation of people doing things that are in their wheelhouse and doing them well, is not something that every nonprofit experiences. I mean, certainly every nonprofit, everybody wears a number of hats, some they don't want to wear and don't have any idea how to wear, but need to, because you just can't throw money at every problem if you're in a nonprofit. So the can-do spirit, the willingness to do anything, but also just the love and support amongst the staff was something that I feel like was a real gift to me in being around. And like I got to be a part in some, tangential way of being a part of a staff that really does care and listens and loves one another, because we're all tied up in this very difficult, non-glamorous kind of work that involves a lot of sweat equity, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. We talked a lot about this at the retreat, about how humanitarian aid workers have a lot of moral injury about, boy, I wish I could have done more, and all the ways that can keep you up at night. It's difficult. And to see how this team of people have come around one another to help each other do their jobs well, whatever it may be, whether it's budgeting, strategic planning, risk management, to feeding people, making sure the food is there on time, and then doing it together in harness with a real welcoming, loving spirit to these folks who come to us who are in desperate straits. So I just love seeing all those behind the scenes. For me, I'm always looking at the relational dynamics of an organization and not just the bottom line. And I love it that the relational dynamics are being paid attention to at all times at Partners.
Thanks, Fred. Yeah. You mentioned the retreat, and for those of you watching, every so often as we can afford it, we try to gather all our staff together, which is in itself a difficult feat, because we have staff in Syria and Iraq and Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, and North America, all over the world. And so the visas and the logistical scheduling alone is difficult, but it's kind of core. It's become a very valuable thing to what we do, because it's not just bringing peace out there where there's war zones, but it's like these different people from different contexts coming together for the sake of loving our neighbors and helping kids caught in war zones. So I wish I could get every person connected to Partners into that space to see these amazing humans who are coming from active war zones often, and the love that they have for each other and the hope that they carry. The world needs more of that. Before I ask the next question, just want to highlight Craig from Canada. Greetings. Thank you for being a part of this community. Hope the weather's good up there. And thanks for, if you have any questions about Partners, let us know. I just mentioned how I wish I could get folks, not just to see the videos, to support some of the campaigns we have, but to kind of get that on the ground feeling of the hope that we all carry. Like, it is so energizing to be there with people in the midst of all that's going on in the world, and to know that we're all in this together and we can do good. I wish I could get people a window into that. Is there anything about the work of Partners that, if you could like magically get people to see or experience or know about Partners, is there anything that comes to mind?
I think the breadth of the outreach. We certainly are feeding people, but we're also addressing really crisis needs, just in terms of the lack of education that being a war refugee brings to you and your family. Partners is there educating folks who have been marginalized, pushed out, denigrated, in particular women, and the Empower Me program and other programs like that are doing such, it's like it's the value of experience. And since we've been working and I say we only because I'm a part of the board, but it's really the staff, has been working so extensively so long, they actually know what the actual strategic needs are. They're not just imposing what they assume they are, but because so many of our staff come out of those very war zones, and now are turning around and serving within them, they actually know what actually is needed and not just assuming. And so things like women's health, things like helping people learn to speak other languages, just basic educational needs. These come out of the crucible of experience and not kind of an abstract guessing. And so what I love is how the actual programs themselves are designed specifically to meet observable, understood, real needs on the ground that bring immediate relief to the strategic needs of the people, which means that Partners is doing the critical work of listening and not just trying to be the hero, but actually listening to the needs, the experiences, the lived experiences of those folks that we are seeking to serve. Yeah, so I mean, I love that. I love this. I've already bragged about the staff all I can, but the fact that they continue to go back in to these areas instead of seeking a life that's less stressful and a life of relief has taught me so much about compassion, because as one of my big takeaways among being around these folks back in April was that compassion really is not just a feeling, it's a decision. It's a decision to move towards suffering. It's a decision that to move towards discomfort. And I saw that people were making that decision on a daily basis. And it has had a radical impact on me. It's made me rethink a lot about my own life and how I want to steward the resources that I have. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Fred.
And those are actually the stories I love to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I mean, depending on where it is in the world, that level of compassion and the humility, one of our values is that it's community led. So we are not there with the answers, or we're there as neighbors, as friends.
That's right.
I think about in Northeast Syria, when the civil council, we asked what do they need? They said schools. That was the number one thing. Like the future is our kids. And so we've rebuilt like 20 plus schools in a place that was devastated by war over the years. Had a question from Craig. Thanks again for chiming in and being a part of this. Carrie, you want to take this one?
Yeah, Craig had asked, are you still ministering in Mela refugee camp? And we are. We have been there for many, many years, now a few decades, but we're continuing to support community-run boarding homes there. And actually some of the incredible staff that we're talking about grew up in these boarding homes and are now leading the education programs themselves, which is really incredible. And like you were saying, Fred, I think specifically as you're talking about staff, two of the staff came to mind who had grown up in Mela refugee camp and were in these boarding homes and their parents. And I see our staff, and for all of them, it's such a risk, but I've been especially moved by watching parents who are putting their lives on the line because they want other kids to be safe in the way they want their own kids to be safe. And that is an incredible sacrifice as a parent, to run towards the danger.
Totally. Yeah, it's hard to, thanks for the question, Craig, because sometimes when I interact with folks, we have 30 programs. It's hard to like capture each of them. I think right now we have some sort of connection to 9 different countries. And so some of them are boarding schools for kids who had to flee Burma, and they're seeking shelter and safety and education at these camps. And some of them, sometimes it's food delivery in Lebanon. My wife is going to be going to teach medical stuff in Bangladesh and Cox's Bazar with the Rohingya. And so it's really amazing to think about. We're not a huge nonprofit, to know that we're making an impact together. And so we talked about those little campaigns earlier, like doing a lemonade stand, writing a letter. Right now, you can write a letter to some of our friends in these different places on our website. There's a whole campaign about, you can read some of their letters and the impact that Partners has made on them, and you could interact. And one of the things that I deeply value about Partners, it's already been touched on, is that it's a community. It's relationships. It's not just the material aid we're bringing, but it's also the hope and the connection and the love. So thank you all for being a part of it. Fred, thanks for being a part of the board. It's important work. And all you who are watching now or later, thanks for being a part of this. We'd invite you to consider what it might be to lean in during summer. If you have any questions about our work, where we work, how we do it, let us know. We are here. We want to be interacting with you all. Any last words, any final comments, Kara or Fred, or any other questions before we close out today's episode of Partners Unplugged?
Yeah, as a board member, I think part of who I'm talking to right now is other people that might be able to fund this and are asked for money all the time. And one of the things that I always look for is our lives being changed. And I would say, yes, and lives are being saved. I think that's what I really want to say is, if you want a fantastic return on your investment, if you must think of it that way, the return is lives are being saved, and that God is at work in this community of people doing this work in remarkable ways. So I would encourage everyone to invest in Partners.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks for hanging with us.
Yeah, great to be here.
Always a joy.
Indeed.
Likewise.
Well, be blessed, Partners community, and thanks for being a part of this with us. We will catch you next time.